Hi everyone, my name is Corbin. I've been maining in Mistweaver this season, and this will be my attempt to give you guys some commentary on a 26 Tol Dagor we chested last week with the affixes Quaking, Teaming, Fortified. So in Tol Dagor, the first pull we like to do is something called the beach pull, where you just pull the entire beach and give or take some turtles. So we do the whole beach plus 2 of the turtles, and we save the other 2 turtles for the boss, and this allows us to skip some trash later. So, important thing to do while your tank is gathering up all the mobs is to actually just do nothing. Make sure you don't have her doing this on anyone, because then it'll travel to your tank, and if you do any healing to your tank while they're gathering that stuff up, they're all going to run to you, and you're going to ruin the pull. It's really important that you get all of the mobs gathered up, and then once you do get them up, and you see the first set of stuns go out, I kind of popped away a little bit early, but after you see the first set of stuns go out, you want to press away and get in there. What's really nice about Way of the Crane on this pull is that these crabs do something called a squeeze, which roots the players in place and does a lot of damage to them, especially when they get more than 2 on them. It'll usually kill them in a few ticks. But when you're in Way of the Crane and you're standing directly in the middle of the pack, all the squeezes will target you and you're immune to them during that duration. So after your Way of the Crane is over, you basically have to rely on AoE stuns. So you can use Leg Sweep, which I just used a little bit before that. Or you can Tiger's Lust someone. It will remove the root and the stun. It's not a stun, sorry. It'll just remove the root off of them. However, it's not like Freedom where they're going to become immune to all the roots after that. It's just going to remove whichever ones they have on them. Other than that, your DPS have to press offensives, you have to press defensives, and try to CC them as much as you can. So since this is a 26, you usually get another Way of the Crane. So I press another one here, and I'm inside baiting. Something else you might notice is you're like, you don't know what that spell is. That's a Frozen Orb, that's a Frost Mage. He's not really a Frost Mage, he's just a Frost Mage for the first pull. It's pretty common in Tol Dagor on the first big pull that you have your Mage go Frost so they can slow all of the mobs. Depending on what the affixes are, sometimes you also just have them get all the aggro and tank for your tank. So they get to do a lot of damage, slow the mobs, keep them all nice and grouped up and clean. And that way you get a lot of count at the beginning without a lot of effort. So at the end of the pull, you can see my Frost Mage has zoned out. He's going to spec back into fire, and we're going to finish off the pull while he's doing that. So after we finish the pull, I go towards the boss, and I get a drink. And while I get a drink, my Demon Hunter is going into the back, and he's pulling the other 2 turtles. Normally we like to do this a little bit earlier, but I'll be a little bit slow, because the turtles themselves are also really slow, so we're going to pull the boss, and then about 15 seconds into the boss, the turtles are going to come in. As you can see, I set down my Transcendence. I have my Transcendence down ready for when I get targeted by the upheaval. So we pull the boss, you do some DPS. I'm holding CDs here. I don't like to pop any CDs before the sandstorm and stuff that happens. As you can see, those 2 snappers are coming in. The snapper is something called like a Sea Salt Whirl. It does like an AoE stun that lasts like 3 seconds, which you don't really want. Okay, so I get targeted by upheaval. So I have a weak aura that beeps at me when I'm supposed to transcend. So I hear the beep, and then I transcend away, and the sandstorm starts. On the first sandstorm, I always want to press Way. Way of the Crane is really valuable for this fight, because there's usually a lot of AoE. Like right now, there's only 3 targets, but he's going to spawn those sand traps. And then I'm just going to keep spinning and healing my group to full. So it's pretty powerful on this fight. You get it like about every other sandstorm. And even at the beginning of the sandstorm, maybe there's not a lot of drones. As long as the Sand Queen is up on top and not doing, it's like not the overlap where it's doing an upheaval during the sandstorm, he's gonna spawn some more drones and you're gonna have plenty of AoE healing to do that way. It's important to note that when you're getting in there that you're being careful and making sure you're not getting too many itchy bites. Because you want to be standing in the middle to do a lot of healing, but also you don't want to die from the itchy bites. So that's what is scarier overlaps, where Sand Queen is going under to do an upheaval. My mage got kind of out of range of me, so he had to block there, which was partially my fault on my positioning. We didn't have a lot of good communication there. So I have Way up, but I'm not pressing it yet. I'm waiting. I think for some reason I decided, normally this is where I would press Way on the sandstorm. I think I got confused by when the upheaval was happening, yeah. So this is the upheaval where I kind of mess up. So I've fixed my weak aura since then. My weak aura was beeping a bit too early. With transcending, you have to like really like cut it close to when you transcend to when the upheaval is coming up compared to like a heroic leap or like a wild charge. to make sure that you're far enough away. I'm going to link the weak order to you guys in the description, but yeah, so since... Whoops. So since we did this, I went ahead and kind of changed the timing on the weak aura to make it so that didn't happen to me. There's some kind of weird interaction with her upheaval if you don't have a soothe. Most groups, not most groups, but a lot of groups do have like a hunter or a druid, so they get to soothe the Sand Queen. She gets a buff that makes her have more haste and makes it a little bit harder to dodge sometimes. I don't fully understand the interaction, but yeah, so an easy fix for it is just to change the weak aura. So by default, if you go on Waga and you get this weak aura, Tol Dagor upheaval. This trigger will be set to 4.5 seconds. What you want to do is you want to change it to 4.8, so that makes the beep a little bit later, so that you transcend a bit later, so that you can actually dodge it every time. Normally the 4.5 second timer always works for like her first upheaval, but then after that, because she's getting more enraged stacks, for some reason you have to cut it a bit closer. I don't fully understand it, but I do know that since I've been using this timing instead of the 4.5 second timing, I haven't had that happen to me. Thankfully, I was able to live because I kind of knew that my timing wasn't actually like correct, so I pressed diffuse magic here on that upheaval, so that's why I got to live. When you're a Mistweaver on this fight, when you're doing it correctly, what you want to do is you always want to transcend the first upheaval you get, and then if you get the next upheaval, you won't have transcend up. So you want to make sure you have diffuse available for that. So then you want to diffuse the second one. And if you get the third one in a row, then you can transcend that. If you get a fourth one in a row, you're dead. So, but you have to get mighty unlucky for that to happen to you. I didn't do a very good job here of showing you the order you're supposed to do that because I rightfully panicked on that second one and decided to press my diffuse, but thankfully I did get the next one. So I didn't die here. So we're going to keep killing the Sand Queen. She's going to do her upheaval. Upheaval goes on the Demon Hunter. The Demon Hunter fell rushes away. Most classes have a way to dodge this, or immunity or something to do about it. So I press way here. I'm just going to AoE down all the drones. My mana's a bit low here. The reason it's a bit low is because I haven't been pressing my mana T. My mana would be probably about like 20% higher if I've been pressing mana T on my way of the cranes, but because I knew I didn't have to worry about mana, I didn't really take the time to spare the global. It's probably not a good habit for you to get into because you want to be able to be ready for anything and have mana T available. So after we kill Sand Queen, then we do the parasites that are in the drain. There's just 5 of them. Sometimes it's easy after Sand Queen to just be like, okay, Sand Queen's dead, I'm gonna go heal my friends because they're killing the parasites, and you don't get a drink because your friends are so eager to go kill those parasites. Make sure you sit down and you get a drink because these things kind of do some sleeper damage to your group if you just run in melee like I did. And they usually take a while to die because your group is usually out of juice by the end of that boss fight. They've been killing parasites for the past 4 minutes. Alright, so after that, we're going to go into the Tank Buster Obelisk. So when you get in the Obelisk, you can either use Roll to get out of the Sis, or you can use Tiger's Lust. Make sure you don't use Tiger's Lust before you actually enter like the Sis zone, if that makes sense, like the slow. Because then it won't give you the immunity to the slow. Another thing you could do to be immune to the slow is pop Way of the Crane. So usually at the beginning of this one, I pop Way of the Crane, and then I just stay in the Dark Fury with Diffuse because I know I'm not going to need Diffuse anywhere for a while in this dungeon. Nothing is scary. If this was like bursting or something, you especially would not want to be greeting your Diffuse that way. Another nice fun thing this Tank Buster does is he will apply Spirit Breaker to your tank through the ceiling. Because this is Tol Dagor, these walls are paper. So make sure you watch out for that. Usually you want to try and be up there with your tank, but I trust my tank and he knows it's going to happen. And he's just going to get the Spirit Breaker debuff and not get hit anymore because it went through the ceiling. You can do Spirit Breaker through the ceiling, but he can't melee through the ceiling, thankfully. So my tank would be in big trouble. So I catch up to my tank here. I'm going to top him up a bit, and we're going to drag Urgoth Brick of Heroes back into this back corner. The reason we drag him back into this back corner is because we want to pull these looters and the thug and arsonist and a striker. I don't think the arsonist is usually there on teaming week. And we're going to do a big pull here. Our maiden's going to combust. We're going to blow all of our CDs. This is a little bit of a scary pull because those build rot looters get a buff on them. So I'm just gonna sit here and melee down Urgoth a bit. While we're here, I'll talk to you guys about a bit about my corruption choices. So I played this dungeon a bit safe. I took off. I have a Twilight Dove weapon, and then I have the Flash of Insight weapon from Mythic Drestagath, which I usually alternate between. I chose to put on the Mythic Drestagath weapon because this is Tol Dagor, and Twilight Dove goes through walls, and also I just wanted to play it a bit safe. Tol Dagor usually at this level isn't a damage race, it's just about playing it clean. And then I usually stack Versatiles on Monk because I like to get extra value out of my Secret Infusion. I almost always use my Thunder Focus Tea on RSK, and so the Versatile percent Corruption allows you to get extra value from that. And also kind of acts as an extra defensive, which is kind of cool. Versatility sends pretty well from Mistweavers as well. I'm running triple Secret Infusion. I have the helm with uplifted spirits on it. I run Shiji. That's the image that keeps popping up in the middle of my thing. It's a Windwalker trait, but it does work in Mistweaver off of Blackout Kick, Rising Sun Kick, and Spitting Crane Kick. So we're gonna go out the portal, pre-pot. I'm gonna put Enveloping on my tank, put a Renew on him, and then I'm probably just gonna press Wave the Crane and spin to win. Because all the mobs are now coming in. I wanted to wait for that striker to get in. He's not actually fully gonna get in. I probably should have ringed him in. Oh, no. I'm saving my ring for my tank when he needs it. That's right. Take that back. So something important to know about these mobs is that debuff they get on them. So it probably would have been best if I got in a bit earlier and belted before I did right there, because it was kind of beating on my tank and I was just tunnel healing him. So you want to assign your Belf racials to dispel that. If you're Alliance, this pull might be a lot harder to do. I don't know if it's really doable because these things do kind of truck your tank. You also want to be careful pressing ring on this unless your tank calls it and knows what's going to happen, because what will happen is if you ring and they go to the back of the ring, all the looters will teleport to your tank and melee them in the back and possibly kill them. So make sure your tank knows what's going to happen and they know how to handle it. So we're finishing off this pull. We're killing the striker. I think we also still have a looter somewhere. So we're just gonna eat into this corner. So what you do now is you AFK in this corner, and your rogue goes and activates all the buffs. And after they activate the buffs, they'll activate the blob obelisk, and the blob and its little tentacles will all teleport to you this nice corner and be stacked all neat. You talk a little bit more. I think I chose the Mott Trinket. Sometimes I wear Ignition's Fuse in this dungeon, but I chose a Mott Trinket to be safe on first boss and last boss for like mana. It's also just really good damage. It scales really well with like haste and lust and stuff like that. I almost always wear an Alchemist Stone. And then I wore just some safe healing essences. I usually also like to run Well in this dungeon, but I kind of go back and forth on it. The extra versatility from Lucid is pretty nice as well. So we're just gonna sit in this corner. Our rogue is activating the obelisk. I pressed away a little bit too early here, but that's okay. So then you're just gonna DPS on these tentacles. Most of the time your Fire Mage is gonna have Combust back up here while you're AFKing. It's also a nice cooldown recovery for you because this vlog is sleeper hard, because you're gonna be trying to run through all these corridors and getting slowed by them and then get stuck in the pools and stuff like that if you don't manage to kill all these tentacles in the first go here. And you run out of room really fast as well. Tol Dagor kind of sucks with Tol Dagor and Waycrest, I think, really suck with some of these obelisks with the closed spaces. So we're gonna finish off these tentacles and we're gonna drag the blob up. When you're doing this blob, it's important that you kind of go slow up this hallway if you want to drop it at the beginning of the hall, like beginning of the room in the next hallway. Because you don't want to like block off your teammates to see like our mage is standing maybe a little bit too far back, but it's really not a big deal because he knows when the pools are going to come out and stuff like that. He knows what he's doing. So we don't want to like cut off our teammates, and we just want to go up slow and not cheat. So this is about where we want to drop the blob and where we're going to set up our next pull. This next pull does get kind of Monka-esque for us, as you guys are going to see. So we're finishing off the blob. If you need to, you drink right here while your tank goes out. He speed pots. He's going to grab the Arsonist. He's going to grab the Sea Speaker. And I think it's just one other. No, it's two more. So it's 3 total arsonists. So since we pulled these arsonists at different times, they're going to be desynced. So you saw that first arsonist applied a torch strike, and then I dispelled it, and then the other 2 arsonists dispelled added the next 2. So that was not really how you want to dispel that. I should have waited until I got in all 3 to dispel it so that I could sync it up that way, because now I've kind of put myself in a pickle with how I'm dispelling. So while I was in a pickle with how to dispel, our demon hunter died of from having an aggro on the striker. So now I've kind of synced it correctly where I'm dispelling when he gets to 3 stacks. But things get really spooky here because some salt blasts go off and our tank decides, okay, I need to kite away. And while he's kiting away, he pulls 2 more arsonists, which isn't really what you want when you have a DPS down and your tank is dipping below 10% health. But we're gonna try and pull through this one. And while we're doing this, our demon hunter is gonna run back because there's no way I can go back there and harass him right now. We are very scary. So during a time like this when your tank is kind of on the edge, like I said, I normally use Thunder Focus Tea on RSK, but this is a good time for you to use your Thunder Focus Tea on Vivify, so you can get that extra mastery, because the mastery is really powerful for keeping your tank alive. So now we're back down to 2 arsonists, so it's a lot less scary. There's only 2 debuffs I have to worry about. Again, I didn't really do a good job with my dispels there since these things got desynced. Ideally, you do want them synced so that you can dispel them all at once, but also that makes your tank spike in damage a lot. So there's no like real like set way, and there's nothing you can really do to try and sync them except pull them all at the same time. So we're just gonna keep DPSing this down. Normally we would do that pack without those 2 arsonists we accidentally pulled, and do those 2 arsonists with the next 3 arsonists and do a 5 arsonist pack. And those will be a little bit desynced, and it give me a bit of a better example to explain to you guys how I like to dispel. But since that doesn't happen, it's gonna be a bit harder. Or like I could give you guys a good example, I should say. So Raider runs away. I'm gonna ring him. Be careful about ringing in this dungeon, that you never ring a mob near a wall, a pillar, any kind of object that's not just air, because then that mob will probably fall through the floor and then decide to run back to you through the whole prison and pull all the mobs along the way and deplete your key. So I think our demon hunter is almost back now. It's quite the long run. So next we're going to do these 3 arsonists and these 4 scallywags. Like I said, we usually would do these 3 arsonists with the other 2 we accidentally pulled, but that's not what's happening. So you can see those, he got those 3 debuffs all within about 2 seconds of each other. So then I just immediately dispel that. That's easy. Not a lot of thought required for that one. Normally we would pull those 3 arsonists with the other ones, and then we pull the 3 scallywags and solo pull the warden out of the next pull. And normally if you just focus on the warden, and if you actually leave the scallywags in the AoE of the warden, like the circle he does on the ground, it actually instant kills the scallywags. Not that the scallywags are really a lot of work to kill, because they're just like yellow mobs with really low HP. But it allows you to just single target down that warden so that you move on to the next pull. So I'm waiting for the next, oh no, I don't wait. Oh, he's not getting the debuffs because he's rooting them, and it makes it desync. That's the other thing you have to kind of note, that they will get desynced as well, because a lot of warriors are in conflict and strife in here. As long as you're not letting them sit with it for a long time, your tank should be fine. They can also spell reflect one of them. So normally we pull this warden out, but I think we decide to yellow it because we're kind of short on time and we have lust, and our mage wants to press his combust button. So we just go in. It's really important here, of course, that you're staying away from that warden. That warden is really scary. If you don't have shield block and other things up, he will melee your tank for like 1,000,000 damage or something. Something insane. Make sure that you guys are getting assault blast kicks here, and you guys are calling out your blood elf rituals if you're a horde to dispel those watery domes. If you're Alliance, I hope you have like a shadow breeze or something. So once the scary mobs are dead, we usually pull this into boss. We also usually open up the cages to get the raiders, but I think we use the Twilight Devastation method, where we just had our demon hunter face the cages to open up those cages. It's a nice way to save your rogue some time, so they don't have to spend time lockpicking it. It's just to use Twilight Dev. Also, be careful in this fight if you're using Twilight Dev. Make sure you're facing like the way that you'll see me facing the boss when I come around the corner. Because if you face towards the hallway that you climbed up with the blob, when you're killing the boss, Twilight Dev can go pull that C speaker pack that's there, and it'll pull it to the boss and will most likely wipe your group. So we want to be careful here. We want to make sure that we kill the arsonist before we push Jess Hallis to 70% health. Because if we don't, it might melee our tank in the back while he is stunned. Something else that's kind of weird about having the arsonist in this poll is that you're getting the crippling shiv poison dot, and you can also see that my tank has the arsonist debuff on him. The crippling shiv definitely does more damage, so you should definitely be dispelling that. I kind of made the mistake a couple times of dispelling my tank and having to have myself or somebody else hit with a debuff, but it's not really that deadly. You can heal it through it just fine, so it's not a big deal. So we push the boss. I'm going to press Wave of the Crane here as we're running, because maybe I'll get another Wave of the Crane at the end of the fight if I press it now. Normally we discuss like our interrupts and stuff like that while we're stunned on the other side, so all the DPS are taking care of that. Only thing you really have to worry about here is lining things and dispelling the poison. Another nice thing when you're running Conflict and Strife Major is that you get the extra versatility when you dispel. Our rogue cheated there because we didn't kick the stun Bobby's channel right away. And I think our tank got meleeed in the back there when he was trying to get back into position. But for the most part, this is not a scary fight at all. And you mostly just get to AFK and do damage. Clicking is a little obnoxious here, especially when you're trying to line the flashing daggers. So we're gonna line this. You'll have a quaking overlap, which is nice. We get way back up. And single targeting down Jess. So something I want to note if you have a fire mage on this boss is when the boss starts getting low, you need to start looking out for Bobby having ignite on them. So when the boss ends, you kill Jess. Bobby does this RP and he runs down the hallway. And if you're like us, you don't kill that C speaker pack before you come up to this floor. And if Bobby still has ignite on him, or he has like a hunter pet on him or something, then he's going to pull that pack that's below you and get you guys in combat. But we looked at Bobby, we saw Bobby didn't have ignite, and so we didn't pull away. But if he did have ignite, we would have ran him down the hallway so he had further to walk before he got to go down that hallway. And so the ignite would have fallen off. So right now we're going to sit here. We're waiting for us to drop combat. It takes a while to drop combat after this boss because of the RP. And while we were waiting, our Demon Hunter caged the Marine. And our Rogue started making his way up this hallway so he can go and activate the next obelisk for us. I don't really know how to do it because I'm not a Rogue. If your Rogue doesn't know how either, you can also just have them die. And then you can res them while you're still in this realm. And he will be able to come up and activate the obelisk for you. So once you get into this obelisk, you want to make sure you have revival for this obelisk as often as possible, because then you get to mass dispel all the fears.
Want a drink?
Oh no, thank you. You get to mass dispel all the fears. And then the only thing you're really looking out for on this fight is how many bleeds your tank is getting. And if you have a warrior, you want to ask if they can Berserker Rage the Fear so that you can dispel one of your DPS. As much as you want a DPS, it's usually a good idea to dispel your DPS because they're going to do more. Unless you're in fear of someone dying, then dispel yourself so that you can heal them. It is a little bit scary to have your tank Berserker Rage if they have a lot of the dots on them. So, because they still take the damage from the fear, even if they do Berserker Rage, it's going to be from the fear, they don't get to be from the damage. So that's also something else to note. So we're going to finish off Samric here. And unfortunately here, we dropped the portal a bit too close. So two bad things happen here. We dropped the portal too close, so we aggro the double pack as soon as we get out. Because normally we would cage and sap. And then the other bad thing that happened is, while we were finishing off Samric, someone procced a Twilight Devastation, and it went through the wall, and it pulled things as soon as they came out of the portal. It was either that or Torment in a Jar. We couldn't decide what it was. Either way, some unfortunate things happened. And we decided maybe we can save this. Maybe we can YOLO this and pull all the mobs and live. And our tank is trying to gather them all up. And he's gonna die here pretty quickly. And then our rogue thankfully decided that this was not worth using our limited 5 cannon shots on. So we're just gonna run back and we're gonna try again. Thankfully this is Tol Dagor, so we still get to time the key. Even though we full wiped in a 26, which is kind of wild. So I'm just going to run back. Run back and we're going to set the pole again. So normally, if the portal weren't so close, we would normally like cage the officer right there, then stop the marine. But instead, he's going to cage the officer late because he didn't have. Actually, no, he's not going to cage it at all because it wasn't off CD. I remember now. It's got pretty scuffed. So normally we would stop the marine, cage the officer, and then I would ring them down. And it's okay usually for me to ring because we don't need it for the actual cannons because we have Ring of Frost and our warriors running Conflict and Strife, which makes this Thunderclap route. So we're going to wait for them all to get in. That last marine is going to come in. And then our tank is going to get in, get aggro. Of course, the rogue has put tricks on him. He to get handcuffed, so our mage goes in there and DBs for him to take off that handcuff. Normally that would be Chaos Nova, but I think our Demon Heart was still running back. So we get that pull down clean-ish. Clean for all circumstances considered. We go into the obelisk. Killing this guy. The nice thing is those cannons kind of work as a cooldown reset, so your mage got to combust the last obelisk, now he gets to combust this obelisk. Your DPS aren't going to kick for you and you're gonna die. I don't even know whose kick that was supposed to be, but it's supposed to be someone's kick and so I died. If a kick is gonna go through on you, you can usually most definitely live it with either Fort Brew or Diffuse, but I expected that kick to be done. I'm just gonna run back. It's not a big deal because it's just the spider obelisk and it doesn't really do anything as long as you kick him. So I just speed pop back. I go back out this portal because my team has told me they're almost out the spider. So, and then we're gonna do the next pull. Normally, I would cocoon him going into this pull, but he's an eager beaver. He doesn't want to wait for my cocoon, and he just lives, thankfully. We put the Ring of Frost down. Looks like those marines are taking a little bit longer to get back than usual. I think we saw our tank get corruption slowed there. That's why he uses cloak at the end, so it kind of made those a bit slower, but thankfully a Ring of Peace can correct that. Using Frost Nova, the root from the warrior, DB, Chaos Nova in between, very important. It's also really important that you dispel the suppression fire. The tank almost died there again because I was trying to line around the corner to make sure I didn't get handcuffed. And then we're going to engage the third boss, Captain Valeri. So we always tank Valeri in his back corner. It's really common for people to pull Valeri back to the other corner. The problem with doing that is that she may... So there's 2 barrels that are outside the room. And if she goes to shoot outside the room and she shoots at those barrels, when the barrels get shot, they respawn inside the room and you have 2 extra barrels to deal with throughout the entire fight. And it doesn't really cost you anything to just pull Knight and Captain Valeri to this corner instead, so you don't really have to deal with that. When you get Fuse Lighter on you as a Mistweaver, it's really powerful if you can run Diffuse Magic and diffuse it back. There's a few dungeons where that's really useful, and this is one of them. It does a good amount of damage. Usually my strategy on this boss is to just let as few barrels go off as possible. Sometimes that means some healers will put them all in the same corner and let them all go off and then keep putting them back in the same corner. Some will move them to different corners. Usually I'm the kind of person that moves them to different corners so as little go off as possible, but it's a little bit scarier this week because if you only keep one corner safe, normally that's fine, but on Quaking weeks, it's a little bit scarier. So just come up with a strategy that works for you as a healer. And normally most of the time you can't do it alone, so normally it's a tank that's helping you. We usually did have our tank helping but he kept having problems getting melee in the back, so thankfully our Mage Menace started helping us help me, I should say, move the barrels, as you can see he's doing right there. He's doing a good job of it, to make sure that we're not getting cornered anywhere or without a safe spot. Sometimes it's worth to move the barrels out of the ignition just so you don't have them go off. You have them spread out. Sometimes there's too many. It's kind of just a lot of judgment calls, and you get used to it the more you do this fight. So I'm getting the next fuse lighter. I'm like 5 seconds off getting diffused back. I could have waited and diffused the last end of it, but I decided I'd rather just get some DPS globals in rather than have to heal myself. So I just want to move that to the corner. And pick this one up, move it to this corner. Then I'm going to go back for this one. If there's a purple swirly around it, that means it can't be detonated yet. So that's why that one didn't get activated by her shooting. So I'm going to move this one out of ignition just because I just want to make sure that barrel doesn't go off, so I don't have it respawn somewhere else. I'd rather have it just stay in that corner. But now she's shooting that corner, and that's fine by me. So all these barrels are going to go off. We're really lucky that we didn't get quaking here. This could have been very Monka-esque if we had that overlap, but thankfully we did not. So all the new barrels are spawning. The boss is really low, so I'm probably just gonna say heck it. Just let them do what they want. They're pretty far away at this point. And we kill the boss. So first thing, the first warden gets caged. The next two priestesses get blind and sapped. After that's done, our tank is going to go pull the 2 wardens, and since it's teaming, there is an extra priest up there. As soon as we get here, I Crackling Jade Lightning the warden. And then I wait for him to get close to the priest. I'm going to end cap it. If you're a druid or something, you could just have, that's where you could put like sheep. So those are all CC'd together. Normally you want a ring so that they're all CC'd on top of each other. But that's fine. We'll still probably make this work. They're all CC'd. The tank's gonna break them. He's gonna clap, root them. Our rogue is going to shoot. We're gonna use Chaos Nova and DB to interrupt those casts. It's kind of hard to like actually like, because the priests you have to interrupt them. It's hard to actually interrupt them. Usually you just want to use CC to interrupt them. So now all we have left is the boss. I want to make sure we have our actually, yeah, I think I was refreshing the 4th scroll there. 4th scroll is pretty important on this boss. So you can press way at the beginning of this fight, or you can kind of press it later, but since we have a lot of time, I think I decided to play it safe. And I want to save way, not for this first circle will pretty much always never be a double. The next one though, with this pattern, will always be, so I believe in the tinfoil that if you body pull this boss, meaning your tank just goes up and body pulls, doesn't cast anything, that there's pretty much a set pattern where it just goes single, double, and then you get a bunch of singles, and then after like 5 you get like maybe like another double or 2. So this is a double, and I just keep DPSing the whole time with Way of the Crane, which is pretty nice. So the way the circles work on this fight, my mage does proc cauterize though. I didn't think he was going to because he also had combustion up there, so he's lucid healing, and I was way healing him. And we had lust, and he's still cauterized there because this is a scary boss fight. The way this fight works though is that those circles will always target range players. So if you have a mage, it'll always go on them. A hunter, always. You're a resto druid, you're a priest, you're a shaman. Unless you're an enhancement shaman, it's always going to pick you. However, Mistweavers and Holy Paladins are considered melee, so it won't always pick them. But if you're doing this fight where you have 2 range players, like a mage and a hunter is kind of a common comp right now, it's going to be pretty scary for you to try and heal through if you're getting a lot of doubles. So yeah. Another thing I like to try and do is I like to save my Secret Infusion RSK as kind of like a pseudo-defensive for when I get targeted. It's also just good healing, the versatility itself. And if I'm the one targeted, I'm getting knocked back. That's pretty much the only time that I will cast Essence Font. You probably haven't seen me cast Essence Font this whole dungeon. It's not really budgeted that well for this kind of key level. So I don't press it that much. Diffuse is also diffuse is a really good defensive to use in this dungeon. Like I said, like for the upheaval in the first boss and for these circles, because it is fire damage, it does DR 60% of the damage, and this thing kind of hurts sometimes. Or if you have Fort Brew. So I do that Secret Infusion RSK right there with Wei. I wait until the circle's going off so I get that versatility proc and I get that healing on my whole group while I'm moving. So we're basically just gonna keep DPSing down the boss. Like I said, we only got that one double, so my mage still has block available. My rogue still has cloak. We're not really in any danger. So we got the kind of good rotation. If you are getting a lot of doubles, you have to be a bit more. You'll be using like rally, using those offensives, being more proactive with like using health pot and health stone, which I'm pretty sure everyone in the group still has available. Things like that, which we're all just kind of sitting on and saving just in case we get unlucky towards the end and get a lot of doubles. So my rogue is just going to cloak because he doesn't care. My mage isn't going to block though because that's a damage loss. The positioning on this fight, if you're a Mistweaver, you can go back into that back corner if you're getting like a lot of doubles, you're getting knocked back a lot and you don't want to get stunned. But because that wasn't happening to us and I wasn't really getting targeted, I kind of just got the same melee. But yeah. That is our Tol Dagor run. I was checking to see if we were still deciding what pulled through the wall. I still don't know if it was Torment or Twilight Dead, but it looked like it was Twilight Dead based on the videos. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any questions, you can always come ask me on my stream at twitch.tv/Korame and let me know if this commentary was helpful or what more I could add or focus on to make it more helpful to you guys. So thank you all.